Hello everyone, this is going to be a little bit of a more long form content sort of video for you today. I am using my laptop, so the sound quality is going to be slightly different. I'm using an old microphone that I had a couple years ago before I started using my phone more often for short form videos. But as you can see right here on the screen, I am currently working on a book. This is the Mark of Mordugal, the Mark of Embers, which is the first book in the Mark of Mordugal series. I'm currently working on the first chapter, and I am about to introduce a character. This is going to be a close friend and confidant of the character Haben Tiller, who is the main character, the bearer of the Mark of Mordugal, and I'm trying to figure out what his friend's name is going to be. So, I've got a couple of ways of doing this. One such way that I can do this is to go search through ChatGPT or Google specific languages that I'm basing in this story, certain like words as to what would be a good name for this character. I've done this with other fictional characters like Amorphia tis Thalasis, which I believe is Greek for beauty of the sea. And I'm trying to figure out what this character's name is going to be. I want it to be something nice and simple. I'm thinking, since I have a running name throughout most of my series, that the character name Ben would probably be a decent start or a placeholder name just to get us started. So, let's go ahead and write an announcing line of dialogue that Ben will open up with. And let's think of what a last name would be for this character. So we have Ben. It's nice and simple, very, very easy to understand. Simple stuff, right? But what would be a good last name? So we've got Haben Tiller, we have Bjorn. I haven't given him a name. We have Alphas. We have, I think I named the character Hoffel or Hathfel. And then we have a character called Marin. So let's think about this. We have Haben Tiller. We've got Bjorn. Ben is the character that we're introducing. He's going to kind of come in out of the side. So let's think about it. What should be the name, the last name for this character, Ben, that we're going to be introducing here? That's a very interesting question. Last names are always fun because you don't want to go too stereotypical, and you also don't want to go too out there or too wild with the last name, especially not in a fantasy setting. So why don't we do this? We'll go ahead and call him Ben. Ben Hargrove. Ben Hargrove. That seems like a decent enough name. So we're going to go ahead and open up with this line of dialogue. Now, Ben is going to be a little bit more exuberant than Haben. He's going to be a little more out there. So we're going to open up with a nice little oi, right? Now, usually when I'm doing this, I'll do the voices of the characters in my head or just barely whispering them out loud so that I can kind of get into the mood of the character that's being spoken about. But for this, I don't feel the need to go into too much character acting. So, we'll go ahead and put oi with an exclamation point. Let's see. Hardly recognized. Ben Hargrove. So there we go. We have this little introduction to the character here. Oi! Is that Hobbin there? I hardly recognize you through all that rosy red on your face and bright shining nose, came the voice of one Ben Hargrove. Let's go ahead and write this out. A close and caring companion of the young lad. Oh, I misspelled young. I put your. I don't know why I did that. Of the young lad. Alright, so let's go ahead and make a description for Ben. Let's say he's half a size in stature. and wide as you like. He bore a smile anywhere he went, and messy hair, sandy like. Beige like the sand. Though he was shorter than most, and bore or a wider, let's see, wider gait, wider presence. Let's see, what's the suggestion here? Nah, I'm gonna keep it as nose sitting. So this is obviously stuff that I'll go back in and I'll refine later on once I have everything kind of fixed up and once I have the story written out. As you can see, I'm only on page 8 as of right now. Let me go ahead and mark this down to 75 in the font section. I'm on page 8 as of right now. The opening isn't really that great. And it's going to take some time for me to obviously get this into a better position, right? Once I get it finished, once I get the rough draft kind of initially fixed up and finangled with, once I get it all written out, then I'll go back in, I'll fix the grammar, I'll add in some more precise language, I'll add in some more flowery language to go along with it, because I want this to be good, right? I don't want to just write my stuff out on a piece of paper and then throw it into the ether and hope for the best. You know, I want this to be good. I have a ton of different things, different stories, different books that I've worked on with the Google Docs stuff, and one such of those books is obviously the Angel Chronicles. I put everything I had from a Word document into the Google Docs so that I could carry it anywhere. I could work on it at home or out at work or like on a break or something like that. Driving around, if I had time in between, I would take out the phone and type in some stuff. So yeah, no, I work very, very hard at making sure that everything makes sense in this story and making sure that everything makes sense within the context of the world that we're living in this fictional world. So for this one, making a lot of the characters seem a little bit more like they live in an older period, like a more Renaissance period. Kind of, it's supposed to feel like that. So even though I don't have it perfect as of right now, what I will do later after I've written everything out is I'll go back and I'll look at how they maybe would have used language back then, or use more flowery language and use more specific wording that makes it sound more like it's coming from an ancient world as opposed to something along or near ancient world, as opposed to something like a modern day situation where you can drop in an F-bomb or something like that, Game of Thrones, and it comes across as, to me, kind of lazy if you're not going to include the effort of making sure that people sound like they probably would have sounded like, or at least what you would commonly expect them to sound like. You know, I look at Lord of the Rings, a lot of the language in there is very, very earnest, and I want my stuff to be as earnest as possible there as well. So yeah, and it's the same thing. I'll go from theme to theme. So you can see, let's just go up to, yeah, let's go right here. It wasn't long before Hobben returned with a little wicker basket in his hand. One surely would not have expected it to be capable of holding such a slab of pork, but it did so with whatever valor was put on it by others. There was a slight creaking noise that stretched out from the intertwined interlockings, and the weight was palpable for someone of Hobben's size and stature. He was, after all, not too great in height, nor in build, and had to work diligently for everything he had in life. Yet it bothered him not. He was simply looking forward to the grand celebration and for the many helpings of food and drink that would be present there as well. And certainly not and certainly not least of all was the fact that sweet Mary Marin would be there as well. Yes, indeed, it was the time for Marin after all, and Hobben was very fond of her, though he would certainly do his best to keep himself from showing it. He never understood that he was so forthright about a great many dealings, yet when it came to those stirring butterflies in his innocent stomach, he couldn't help but fear the light of day discovering his longing to be with her and spend a great deal of time with her. He pondered those thoughts oh so very often. You'll see a couple of things that I did there was one, I gave kind of like a anthropomorphization of the worker basket. I described it so that others are putting characteristics on the basket. So it's not just the basket is there as an inanimate object. It's almost like there's a living essence within that basket. You've got a couple of other things. You've got alliterations. You've got Mary Marin. You've got a couple intertwined interlockings and a couple other things right there. But I really enjoy doing that one particularly, where you get to just kind of stop for a second and allow for some sort of flowery alliteration to occur so you can get this really nice sounding thing going on there. I like that. So, and it's one thing I took out of Tolkien's writing when he was writing things. You can see how he does it very often, and I like to do that too. Let me see. I want to show one very important aspect. Ah, yes. Here we go. So I'll go ahead and read from up here. You can see where the marker is at the top of the page. And I'm going to read all the way down to the bottom of the page, okay? Actually, we'll read just a little bit past the bottom of the page. But I want to take you guys along this journey. I want to get your thoughts on this, you know? This is a longer form piece of content. We're already at 13 minutes. I showed you how long it takes me to come up with some ideas to write this stuff out. So this is very important to me. But here we go. Gently and carefully he carried the ham in its tray through the kitchen and into the study where Hobben had his dining table so awkwardly set. There the ham was set right atop the table with a small circular cloth, acting as a simple barrier between the hot pan and the wood tabletop. As Bjorn took his hands away from the pan and the ham, he dropped the little oven mitt that had kept the heat at bay. He went down to pick it up, and he rose slightly, bumping his head against a mantel, and a small book and box fell to the floor. It was heavy. It was a heavy thud for such a small thing, heavier than one would expect to hear. The floor felt it just as well. The feet of both Bjorn and Hobben shuddered slightly as the book and box tumbled to the wood-paneled floor. "Oh my, it seems as though I've gone and knocked down an heirloom of yours," Bjorn said apologetically. "Oh, no worries, my dear friend," Hobben said as he knelt down to retrieve the fallen book and box. As he went to grab the box, the lid slipped off, and out fell a rounded and smooth blackened stone, blacker than the night sky where the stars blanketed by clouds and the moon ceasing to shed its light. And ever fumbling, Hobben cut his finger along the edge of a page in the book he was holding. "Ouch!" he said shortly as he grabbed the stone once more to place it in its box. His bloody finger just grazed the stone and brought a slight shimmer of color to it for a moment before he set it on the table and went to gather a napkin. Bjorn had felt an eerie feeling like some old nightmarish memory was creeping along in his mind. "How very strange," he murmured to himself. It was then when Hubban returned with a fresh white napkin, now stained with a small dab of crimson red. "What a shame! What a shame!" Hubban said, looking at the red stain. "No matter. All is right now that my ham is ready and looks ever so delightful. Thank you so very much for helping me to prepare this ham for the celebration this evening. You're a tremendous friend." "You're too kind, Hubban," Bjorn said as he looked at the box with a sly eye. However, the night was about to begin. There was no need for him, at least not in his mind, to investigate much further. "Very well. We should pack this up and get it down to the gathering. I would suspect they would all be dying to taste the sweet swine you've baked for them." So, in case you can't tell, the Black Stone, the book, and the box are very important. Mostly the Black Stone. And once the story comes out, you'll find out why it's important and exactly how it plays into the Mark of Mordugal. This has been a 16-minute long video at this point in time in the recording, so rather than continue talking and potentially spoiling anything for me or for you, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. But I'm curious as to what you guys think. If you have any ideas or any thoughts on how I can better streamline the creative process for this. This is an entirely new world. This is the new story that I was talking about when I first started uploading some short form content, where I'm talking about the Mundengard, the Forging of the First Ages, where I've created a deity figure that creates through forgetting and a couple other really interesting stuff in there. But basically, this is going to be kind of towards the middle-ish to tail end of the middle of the massive story that's going to be taking place. And I'm working on like the beginning, middle, and potentially the end, which I'm not sure if I'll ever actually get to all at once. So, yeah. But nevertheless, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you had fun watching me stumble around and try to figure out the right words and getting a nice introduction into my mind. But I certainly do enjoy writing this stuff, and I really, really enjoy getting to come up with descriptive language to describe things in simple ways. I might go back and I might describe a little bit more of what the box in the book looked like, and a couple other things, but the main focus of that part of the story right there is the blackened stone. So I feel like I was able to describe that in short enough language that you can get a decent picture in your mind, while not spending 2 pages writing about the way that it doesn't shimmer. So, anyways, sorry I've gone on way longer than I need to. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you have a great rest of the week.